What is the best season not rewarded with an MVP? Maybe sometime between 2001 and 2004 when Barry Bonds was eating a balanced breakfast. Maybe during the Maguire-Sosa home run chase. Maybe back in the days when pitchers threw 600 innings. The MVP award didn't actually exist then, so technically none of those seasons got an MVP, but that's cheating, isn't it? Is it Babe Ruth? Willie Mays? Nope. It's the greatest hitter of all time, Ted Williams. I could tell you all of the statistics and the analytics about this season. I could compare all of the best players and go super in-depth, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to take you on a journey and follow Ted Williams through the best season not rewarded with an MVP award. Okay, the season starts, it's spring training, and Ted Williams isn't there. Where is he? Well, when he finally does show up, he says that he lost track of time hunting in Minnesota because it's the 1940s, and this is just the kind of thing that baseball players do. During spring training, Ted tweaked his ankle. That meant that the only thing he could do is hit. He said that his one advantage that year is that he was getting so damn much batting practice. Williams was still hurt and couldn't field for the beginning of the season. So in the opener, he gets to pinch hit in the 9th inning in a 4-6 game with a runner on second. He proceeds to score said runner with a single, and the Red Sox go on to win this game 7-6. Right now, Ted has a 2,000 OPS, which ranks, I'm kidding, but I wanted to go through this season and be able to tell you where Williams' stats ranked throughout the season, but unfortunately, those metrics just aren't available, so I had to get a little more creative. Fangraphs has monthly statistical leaderboards available for every season since 2001. The league average OPS in 1941 was 703. By far the closest mark to that since the turn of the century is 706 in 2022. So we will be comparing Williams' stats, mainly OPS, to players in the 2022 season. He came into the next game for one at-bat too. He struck out that time, which is a rare occurrence for Williams. In fact, the season where he hit 400, he only struck out 4% of the time. He only got one plate appearance per game for the first 5 games of the season, and by that time, he had a 800 OPS. The next day, he would go 2 for 4 with a double, raising his OPS to 1,000. 2 days later, he would get 2 hits and 4 plate appearances again, with another double, but also a home run, and a walk this time, raising his OPS to 1346. The next day, he would go 1 for 5 with a single, and April was done. He only had 18 at-bats, and was still recovering from his injury during this month. Still, he had an OPS over 1,000. Out of all players who had at least 18 plate appearances in April 2022, Williams would have been ranked 11th. So not incredible, but could be a lot worse. May didn't start off great. He went 2 for 11 in his first 3 games, but then he would get hot, going 10 for 22 in his next 5 games, with 3 home runs, including an 11th inning tie-breaking bullet into the second deck in Chicago. On the 15th of May, Williams got a hit, something he does occasionally. Then the next day, he got another hit. Then the next day, he got 3 hits. Then another the next day. Then another the next day. Then another the next. By the end of May, Williams had a 17-game hit streak and a 1205 OPS. That would have placed him comfortably in first place for OPS by May 2022. Funny enough, he would have been tied for 47th in home runs, as he only had 7. The next day, he got 2 hits, then 2 more the next day, then another the next day, then 3, then 2, then 1. Then, he would finally go 0 for 2 with 3 walks. By this point, he had a 1234 OPS. That would have been 200 points above anyone in 2022 by this point. After a couple of hitless games, he then hit 3 home runs over the next 7 games, slugging a flat 1,000. He continued to pile up hits and a few home runs, but the main difference was the walks. He got more walks in June than April and May combined. Williams walked 30 times in his 28 June games. The most in any month in 2022 was 33 by Aaron Judge when he was chasing down the home run record in September. Williams had 15 home runs, which would have been 21st in 2022. But I don't really care when you have a .526 on-base percentage. That is quite literally 102 points higher than the best in the first 3 months of 2022. Williams started July with a 7-game hit streak, with the last game being a 3-for-4 performance. Obviously, Williams was selected to the All-Star game, and in 2022, he probably would have been voted in by pretty much everyone. He had a 1200 OPS by this point. The best in the first half of 2022 was 1058 by Yordan Alvarez. One thing that's interesting is that Williams would have actually been tied for second in walks with Max Muncy, with Juan Soto having a ridiculous 79 at this time. Of course, his OBP was 106 points ahead of the league-leading 414 mark by Paul Goldschmidt, with Soto hitting 250 and Muncy hitting holy. Williams started his All-Star game with a walk off of Whit Wyatt, who had a 1.59 ERA plus and led the league with a 2.44 FIP, for those who care about that. Either way, he was a really good pitcher. His next at-bat, Williams would rip a double to right field, scoring the first run of the game. His next at-bat, he would fly out to center field with a runner on first in a tie game. His next at-bat, Williams would be caught looking in a 2-2 count by Claude Pissau with a runner on second. Williams' next at-bat would come in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs, down by 1 run, with runners on first and third. By this point in the game, the ever underrated Arky Vaughan was 3-for-4 with 2 home runs. But Williams would make that a mere footnote with 1 swing of the bat. Listen, you lug. He outguessed you last time, and you got caught with your bat on your shoulder for a called third strike. You were swinging late when you fouled one off, too. Let's swing a little earlier this time and see if we can connect.
Fastball pitches, Williams swings, there's a high drive, going deep, it is a home run against the tip top of the right field stand. A tremendous home run that brought in 3 runs and turned what looked to be a National League win into an American League 7-5 win.
The next game, Williams would go 0-for-4 with no walks? To be fair, his Red Sox, who were a pretty solid offense featuring the GOAT, Jimmy Fox, got shut out, so clearly the pitcher was doing something right. Williams would go 0-for the next day too, 0-for-1 with 3 walks. Anyway, the next game, Williams didn't get a hit either. All he did was pinch hit in the 8th inning and tie the game with a sac fly. Williams injured his ankle, so he missed a few games before this and would have to pinch hit the next few games. On July 20th, his last pinch hit game, he would hit a 3-run home run in his only at-bat. On July 23rd, Williams went 2-for-5 with a double. But that wasn't your traditional double in the gap or down the line. White Sox manager Jimmy Dykes would use what would be dubbed as the Boudreaux shift, but what we now know is illegal in the MLB, where 3 infielders are on the right side of the infield. Of course the shift didn't work. Ted hit the ball to left field for a double, and Dykes would never use the shift again. The next game, Williams went 2-for-3 with a home run and 2 walks. But he was not the focus that night. Lefty Grove was in search of career win number 300. He got somewhat beat up, giving up 5 earned runs. And while Williams certainly came to play and contributed to his win, it was Jimmy Fox with an 8th inning 2-out triple to break a 6-6 tie who shined tonight. Grove finished the game and got his 300th win. At the end of July, Williams had a 1245 OPS. Even when you set the minimum number of plate appearances at 50, Williams still beat Matt Carpenter's 131 plate appearance hot streak. Williams, of course, had an OBP 101 points higher than anyone in 2022 at this point. Through August, Williams continued to rack up hits, but also walks. He had 2 games on August 11th and 13th with 4 walks. On August 19th, he did something he hadn't done since May 4th. He hit 2 home runs in 1 game. That was in the middle of a 4-game homer stretch, followed by an 8-game homerless stretch, in which he had 7 hits and 12 walks, followed by a 3-game homer stretch. This was characteristic of his month. He had 10 home runs and 50 walks. The most walks by anyone in any month in 2022, you may remember, is 33 by Aaron Judge. By this point in the season, Williams had a 1276 OPS, which is well over 100 points above anyone in 2022. Williams had a walk streak going into September that lasted 19 games, in which he walked 36 times. Again, that's more than anyone in any month in 2022. On September 11th, Ted appeared at a batting clinic in Providence. 4,000 fans turned up to see him. The night before, Babe Ruth was the featured guest, and only 12,000 fans showed up. Babe Ruth is obviously the more famous superstar, but for hitting advice, more people looked to Ted. On September 14th, Ted struck out. What's the significance of that? Well, this was the first time he had struck out in 3 weeks. He also hit a triple that day. So, 2 extremely rare occurrences for him. So the last game of the season was approaching, and the Red Sox manager talked to Williams, telling him that benching him for the game was an option. Why would the Red Sox bench the best hitter in baseball? Because Williams had secured a 400 batting average season. Yep. As many of you have probably already figured out, the last 400 season in MLB history did not win MVP. Why? Well, there's another historic accomplishment that was achieved this season. Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. These were 2 historical accomplishments, but which season was actually better? One thing I will point out is Williams was at this time just a 22-year-old kid with only 3 seasons under his belt. DiMaggio was a 26-year-old national superstar, and on the Yankees. First, let's get this straight. Williams had an OPS 204 points better than DiMaggio in 16 less plate appearances. OPS wasn't a thing in the 40s though, so let's look at the actual stats they were using. Obviously, Williams led in batting average, but he beat DiMaggio by 49 points. Williams also led the league in home runs, 7 ahead of 5th place DiMaggio. To be fair, DiMaggio had 5 more RBIs and half as many strikeouts as Williams. Of course, Williams had the 13th lowest strikeout rate in all of baseball in 1941, and Williams had twice as many walks as DiMaggio. Williams led the league with a 24% walk rate. The only seasons with a higher on-base percentage ever include 2 Barry Bonds seasons where he has twice as many intentional walks and 5 times as many intentional walks as Williams, respectively. And the other season is a Josh Gibson season that is insane. Like, Jesus Christ, this stat line. But it only has half as many plate appearances as Williams. This season wasn't just historic for the 400 batting average. This could be argued as the greatest OBP season of all time, given Bonds' diet of balanced breakfasts and Gibson's lack of volume. I could go over so many reasons why Williams was more productive throughout the 1941 season. I mean, just look at the bold on his baseball reference page compared to DiMaggio. But that's not why DiMaggio won this race, is it? People didn't think he was better than Williams in 41. It was the 56-game hit streak. If we look at on-base streak instead of hit streak, because, well, I don't want to give the full case for OBP over batting average in this video, but on a game-by-game basis, your goal as a hitter is to beat the pitcher. And if he doesn't give you anything to hit and you end up on first, that's a win in my book. DiMaggio had an 83-game on-base streak this year, which is one below the all-time record by Ted Williams in 1949. Williams did have a 69-game on-base streak in 1941, but that doesn't really count, does it? Another thing I'll bring up about the hitting streak is one game in the middle of the streak, DiMaggio's only hit was a questionable hit call on a ball that Pete Fox lost in the sun. Of course, luck is necessary for any record. Williams even said so regarding hitting 400. You've got to have luck. I've had it all year. My longest hitless streak was 8 times at bat, and I think I'll keep on being lucky. I know many of you have been screaming defense, but when you're 50% better of a hitter than someone, it doesn't really matter. Even the greatest, most accurate, bestest, only statistic to ever exist, WAR, thinks Williams was a whole win better, which is actually a big enough difference to mean something, I guess. Obviously, DiMaggio was a better fielder. Williams even told the press after an unflattering error in August, "I don't give a damn about fielding anyway. They say I'm a bonehead fielder, and maybe they're right. But bud, I'm a hitter. I can bust them." The thing that I feel maybe even more important is that DiMaggio played center field better than Williams played corner outfield. Playing center field is harder than corner outfield, but Williams was just too good of a hitter. Again, even WAR, which adjusts for positions, thought that Williams was significantly better. I think it's a bit closer. I can understand the case for DiMaggio deserving MVP, but I can say, without a doubt, that this is the best season to not win MVP in MLB history.